Hey there, I'm here with a new 6x8 stamp set from Crafty Schow. It's beautiful, has lots of great florals. And I'm going to share a couple of techniques, first with the jelly plate and then the second with Distress Oxide ink. So I had a big jelly plate, it was like a 6x12, and I was finding that I was having a lot of fun with it and making a lot of prints, but then I didn't know what to do with them. And I realized that the reason I didn't know what to do with them is because I don't work on that big of a canvas usually. I'm usually working with 3x4 cards or 4x6 cards. So I cut my jelly plate just with plain old scissors down into a 3x4 size, which is this one, a 4x6 size so that I can make 4x6 cards, and then a 6x8. So I also had another size that I cut up for that. So I'm definitely excited about that because I feel like now the little creations that I make I can use in pocket page scrapbooking. So here I'm just putting some paint down and then I'm using the stamps to create a resist in the paint before I make the print. So I'm just stamping them down and then putting the paper on, rubbing my fingers, and then peeling it back. And it leaves this really cool kind of outline type image. And you get a similar look to that if you do embossing and then, do a resist, which is what I'm going to do in the next for the next batch of cards. But the reason that this is better and easier to do is because you can tell where they're placed. Whereas when you are stamping with Versamark on a piece of white cardstock, you can't really see where you're stamping until you put the powder on. So I like this. That one didn't turn out well, and I couldn't figure out why. So I prefer this. Plus, there's kind of that like paint look, that splotchy kind of paint background that you can't quite control, and I love seeing what happens when I play with the jelly plate. That's always one of my favorite things. And I am just working on, let's see, I think it's Nina Solar White cardstock. It's not mixed media paper. I do have some mixed media paper, but I do so much playing and mixed media paper is a little expensive. So I just do this on regular cardstock and it turns out fine. Sometimes when I add water, it gets a little pilly. Like if you rub your finger over it, it's kind of pills, but it's generally not too bad. So I made 6 of these and then I just picked 3 of my favorites to stamp the sentiments down onto. And I love the fonts that she chose. They're just beautiful. I just love it all so much. I put those clouds on that blue. I really liked the way that that turned out as well. I feel like these would be cute little art pieces to put in your house as well. I stamped that, but I didn't like it. It was like too, I don't know, that black was just too harsh against these soft colors. I generally don't work with such soft colors, but I liked how calming this palette was. And so here she has this long word strip. I'm not sure what size it is, but I actually end up cutting it with some precision scissors, which I have done a lot with stamps. I figure it's not a big deal to cut them because you can always piece them back together on an acrylic block, but it's really hard to kind of precision stamp, on with a long strip like that. For this next batch of cards, I'm embossing some of the flowers on some white cardstock, and there I wanted there to be kind of a line to put a sentiment below them without the stems, so I just masked it with washi tape. I am prepping each piece of white cardstock with my anti-static bag that I am finding makes a huge difference in the quality of embossing. I think it does something about making sure that embossing powder doesn't get on parts other than what you stamp. I'm not sure about the science behind it, but I definitely find that it works. I used, oh gosh, what's the brand? I can't remember the brand, but it's just white, super fine embossing powder. So now I'm going in with my Distress Oxide inks and the Tim Holtz Mini Ink blending tool and just kind of making some soft backgrounds here. And again, really enjoyed this softer color palette that I don't generally go with. I'm really loving Distress Oxide ink right now. I want to collect all the colors. They're all amazing. And so what I'm finding is that when I'm blending these, sometimes that line between the colors is really hard to blend in. So I feel like I have to go back several times with the ink, with the mini ink blending tool to make sure that there's softer edges and not these kind of harsh lines against between the different colors. So I feel like with this one, I go in and then I go in again and then, just back and forth and back and forth. I also spritzed some water on, I think this one and maybe the pinkish one, which creates kind of like a chalky watercolor look. And I was worried that I wouldn't be able to stamp on it, but it actually turned out fine. So here I'm just wiping down the embossing to make sure that ink comes off the embossing powder and that it's nice bright white. So I'm just drying it there with a hair dryer. And then I thought that, again, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to stamp a sentiment directly on the paper because I thought that it was too chalky, but I let it dry a little bit more and then it was fine. So here I'm stamping on vellum and then I put the strip down, but then the adhesive showed through and it was kind of weird. So I think I end up removing it, and then I actually machine stitched it on, which I love the texture that machine stitching gives. And it works great for things like transparency and vellum. Yeah, I ripped it off there. And then I think I stamp it again, and now I'm going to run it through the machine. Yeah, really like the way that that turned out. And here I used that cut up strip again. It's perfect because I'm a pocket page scrapper, so cutting that up works great for 3x4 cards, and it was super easy to cut. Just love these so much. Be sure to check out her shop and all of the beautiful stamps that she's just released.